So I just want to welcome everyone to this amazing talk by two of our phenomenal team members on the work they do here at JFS in regards to poverty reduction. We have Rachel Bernholtz. She is our incredible food security lead, who has taken this position and just grown it extensively with compassion, grace, and wit. And this is her last day before her maternity leave. So she will be sorely missed. We do have Stephanie Wickens, who will be replacing Rachel for the time being. So she's joining in on the talk too. So a warm welcome to Stephanie. And we also have Aimee Wigley. So Aimee is our holistic case worker. She is in charge of our financial assistance program, along with our claims conference, Holocaust Survivors. And these two I like to call the Wonder Twins. They do amazing things to support people in our community, and they are the best people to tell you about what's going on at a grounds level and about the incredible work they do, but I am so very proud of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Welcome, everyone.
So first of all, we're going to start with some housekeeping. As Alexis said, this presentation is being recorded. Please turn off your camera if you do not want your image captured. There will be a discussion question as well as a Q&A period. The chat box will be monitored constantly. Please take advantage of this and ask questions and make comments. So I would like to start with a land acknowledgement. The city of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase of 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. At JFS, we stand in solidarity with the murdered and missing Indigenous women, girls, transgender, and two-spirit people. And before we continue, I would like to remind everybody to kindly mute your mics, please, and thank you.
So Hamilton Jewish Family Services was founded in 1929. We received funding, more than 50% of our funding, from the Hamilton Jewish Federation. Our strategic priorities are senior supports, our active living center, claims conference, mental health, group and individual counseling, poverty reduction, financial assistance, holistic case management, and food security, along with life navigation. Clients are Jewish and non-Jewish. Our clients are from Hamilton, Burlington, St. Catharines, Oakville, Niagara Falls, Waterloo, and Guelph. So I'd like to just start off with a bit of an interactive segment. We're going to give you about 30 seconds to a minute, and we'd like you to put into the chat what you think of when you hear the term social assistance or when you hear that someone uses a food bank. So please, just first thing that comes to mind, throw it into the chat box.
And there are no wrong answers.
No wrong answers. Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any thoughts?
Sarah Kaplan said, I think they're having a lot of trouble financially, and I feel sorry for them that they probably have substandard food. Medically challenged people, says Susan Fenner-Levy. Alice Sahara says people working with low wages, not enough to cover the cost of living. Sarah Mandel says, when I hear social assistance, I think of a safety net for the community. Carl Cuneo, society has done a bad job of ensuring that people have access to the basic necessities of life. And Alexis has said hardship and something all of us might need at any time, or this strange twist of fate.
Okay, great. So those are all really great things and very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And
Rosie other said, I think about community and kindness.
Yeah. Some other things I know I've heard, and I believe Aimee has heard as well, is homeless, unemployed, lazy, wanting an easy out, taking advantage of a system. They just need to learn how to budget better, and they need to learn cooking skills. And so we're hoping that through this presentation, we can kind of break down some of these assumptions that people have about people who need to access services.
Okay, sorry, just bear with me 1 second. My slides have decided to freeze, which is always fun. Oh my goodness. Sorry. That's okay. There we go. Did you know that the majority of Hamiltonians are working poor? Over 50% of residents in our fair city are living paycheck to paycheck with little to nothing in their savings accounts. This is in large part due to the extremely steep rental increase, which has led to Hamilton becoming the third most expensive place to rent, comparing square footage and quality of the neighborhood in North America. Think about that for a moment. We are eclipsed only by Toronto and Vancouver. Both Los Angeles and New York City are cheaper to live in like for like than the Hammer. And as you can see from the slide here, it was making a lot of progress with poverty reducing. And as you'll find out, the pandemic really changed a lot of that for us. When the last census was taken in 2016, poverty rates appeared to be in decline. However, all of the positive work and advocacy done by JFS and our broader network of community organizations could not have counted on the events of spring 2020. According to the latest research, Jewish poverty rates are nearly identical to non-Jewish rates. In 2011, Jewish poverty rate was 14.6% compared to 14.8% in the broader population. This was an increase from the 13.6 in 2001. 24.7 of our Holocaust survivors in Canada live below the poverty line, according to a 2011 study conducted through the UIA. It's harder than that to capture accurate poverty statistics in the Jewish community due to Jewish being removed as an ethnicity within Statistics Canada, something of which federations and CJF have advocated to have changed. Jewish poverty is seen as something that's invisible. This is partially due to the idea of a shanda. The cost of living Jewishly is actually more expensive than the cost for the average Canadian. For example, kosher products such as meat can cost up to 20% more. And then there should be a video here. There it is.
And Hamiltonians experiencing homelessness have 3 weeks to find housing as the city says to revert back to laws that don't allow camping overnight on city property. While city officials say encampment.
Sorry, everyone. Video should work momentarily.
A Zoom presentation would be nothing without these little hiccups. That's something I've learned to be very patient with.
Come on.
You can do it. I believe in you, video. If it doesn't work, we can move on. That's not a problem. It's
We'll send out the link to the video.
Sure. Maybe if we clap and do the I believe in fairies thing, Sarah says, which is brilliant. Okay, so we'll move on.
All right.
It's essentially about homelessness and poverty in Hamilton. And it discusses the fact that the homeless population who live in shanty towns without shelter are actually given now, they had 3 weeks in August to vacate their areas. Otherwise, the bylaw enforcers were coming to help dismantle shanty towns. And it's a very interesting segment that actually presents both what the city is trying to do whilst also interviewing people that are directly affected by this and how they feel in comparison. So prior to COVID, the poverty rate amongst taxpayers in Hamilton was at 15%, according to SPRC. The poverty rate in Hamilton was 20.5% for children. The provincial rate at this time was 13.7%. Since COVID, while there has not been extensive research into the rates, we believe that they've increased due to the loss of employment, rising housing costs, inflation, etc. Poverty rates amongst taxpayers in Hamilton was at 15%. This is certainly something that we have seen in Jewish family services, where there's been a notable uptick in applications for both financial assistance and food bank supports. I'd also like to take this moment to disclose that I have a client currently living in a shelter whom I'm working with to find housing. I myself was homeless for close to a month and stayed on sofas and on floors while I was escaping an abusive relationship. So I have been blessed that I've never ended up having to sleep rough on the streets. It's something that's incredibly personal and very meaningful to me.
And Aimee, correct me if I'm wrong, but the client you're speaking of who's living in the shelter, he's been on a waiting list for affordable housing in Hamilton for 7 years?
Yes. He's actually going to be quicker getting housing in Mississauga than Hamilton.
So that's another factor to this issue, is the wait lists
Yeah.
for support are astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a little thought exercise for everyone to touch on what Aimee said. So I just want you to think, you make about $30,000 a year as a salary. After taxes, that comes out to $24,961 yearly, or just over $2,000 a month. Your expenses include rent, utilities, phone and internet, car insurance, and gas. These numbers are based on Hamilton averages. That leaves you with $210 for the month to buy everything else, including medication, food, gas, clothes, and entertainment. This is your budget. You know this. You figured it out. You've made it work. But now what happens if your car breaks down and you need to pay for repairs? Or your child gets sick and you need to take some unpaid days off of work? Or because there's a national pandemic, your hours are cut or you're let go. Even with the most careful budgeting, it's easy to see how quickly someone could go from fine to not okay. So again, there was supposed to be
May I say something?
It's really tiny. I'm sorry. Let me see.
I don't know if you can hear me.
This.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just referring to Rachel's comments about expenses.
Okay.
I haven't been
So
able
this
to
is
drive for
just
12 years
the
due
table
to
of
medical
contents to give you an
reasons.
idea.
There is no
the
reason why
things that
these
are in
people in
there.
this
So
financial
investing in
situation
women
cannot do away with their vehicles and use public transit. That is a huge amount of money that they can save. Secondly, when your income is that low, you qualify for a lot of like Trillium Fund and all kinds of other tax reducing amounts that so that in the end, your taxes are actually almost negligible. So those are two things to think about, and how your available money is could actually be a little bit more than what you've what the screen says. So I just wanted to add that.
Procurement, paid sick day.
Thank you very much for the comments, Gina. And just so you know, this was a thought exercise. It's not necessarily reflective of all of our client situations. I have many clients who don't have vehicles and who don't, but there are others who are also impaired by disability. So getting around on public transportation is not an option for them. I have clients that live out in Stony Creek in an area where there are no buses, and one of them is physically disabled. If it wasn't for her husband having a car, she wouldn't be able to go anywhere.
Absolutely. This was just a thought exercise to show how, so even if you sub out car for transit expenses, but it's a thought exercise to show how even with the most careful budgeting,
yeah,
there often isn't a lot of a buffer zone for when things go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously everyone's finances are different. And this was just an example of how tightly, when someone's budget is so to the dollar, how any disruption can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Okay, I hadn't realized, the whole theme of this, and actually I'm hearing the YouTube
I think we're going to ask that people save their comments and either put them in the chat or until after Rachel and Aimee are finished. That way we can get through the presentation.
Yeah. So we're going to try another video. We'll see if this works. If it works, I want to introduce you to Beryl Ann. Her story is, it's not extraordinary. It's not unusual. It's just one woman's story. And one thing to note is that this segment is from before the COVID pandemic started, which is why you don't see anyone in masks or taking any social distancing precautions. As well, it mentioned some statistics, which unfortunately are no longer accurate. So let's all cross our fingers and hope this works.
When we did a dry run today, I will say everything worked perfectly. So
yep.
There we go.
For Beryl and Mark, both her greatest joy and biggest stress comes from providing for her kids.
And you don't know where the extra dollar going to come from to buy food for your children.
And so the single mother of 5, actively looking for a job, relies on her local food bank.
Canada is one of the most wealthiest country in the world. And it's disheartening to see that so many people has to line up sometime in the cold, freezing cold, to get something basic or necessary as food.
Would you like hummus, guacamole?
The new report says food bank use across Ontario is on the rise. Even the number of employed people using food banks has jumped 27% over the past 3 years. The report attributes the rise in users to an increase in temporary jobs and low wages. It also found that 1 in 10 Ontarians doesn't make enough money to afford a basic standard of living.
People are working multiple part-time positions or multiple contract jobs to make ends meet. So it's becoming increasingly difficult to acquire sufficient income to meet all their needs at the end of the month.
According to the report, children and single-person households rely on food banks the most. Volunteer Marilyn Minnick-Lamarche says she's noticed the growing numbers.
You see younger people, you see young families, you see people on their own, you see seniors. So it's really a very diverse group of people accessing the food bank.
Beryl Ann Mark fears it may only get worse.
Every year some people have their rent increase, and you know, the food prices has gone up, clothing prices, so everything has gone up.
And so do her worries, especially before the holidays. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Toronto.
So taking care of the poor is a key Jewish value. It's our responsibility as a Jewish community to care for those who are facing challenges. A lot of our clients are invisible in the Jewish community. They do not attend a synagogue or participate in community events. HJFS takes a holistic approach to the individual. It is our goal to help them find lasting solutions to whatever challenges they may face. Our unofficial motto is a hand up, not a handout.
So we've made some significant changes, especially since the pandemic, with how we engage. In 2020, we began to review how we were looking at poverty and how our services were delivered. This was a vital piece of our strategic plan. As part of our 2020 allocation request, we asked Federation to invest in a holistic case manager, which is me, and a food security lead, which is Rachel, and now Stephanie. These two positions are meant to deliver services to clients while looking at innovative ways to engage additional supports to help clients achieve their own personal goals and create opportunities for community inclusion. Our programs are meant to empower our clients and also to engage the community in caring for those marginalized by poverty. Holistic case management examines a whole person, taking into account mental and social factors rather than just their financial standing. At JFS, as Rachel mentioned, we believe in a hand up, not a hand out. Our program is designed to assist community members who are struggling for a set period of time, and it involves a good deal of collaboration. This includes connections to other community organizations that can be of assistance or provide additional support, as well as referrals to our incredible in-house team. Jewish Family Services is a truly united organization. We all work together to try and improve the life of all of our clients, whether they're with us for 3 months or 30 years. Whilst we do have some longer-term clients, most of whom are seniors, the goal of financial assistance and the program that we run is to help someone who's struggling to avoid homelessness, bankruptcy, and other monetary extremes that could have lasting consequences on mental, physical, and financial health. The process begins with an application, which is discussed with our EO, Alexis, unless the client is out of area, in which case they are anonymously presented to our financial assistance committee. After approval, I meet with the client to discuss goals, their support network, and what they're hoping to get out of the program. One of the first questions I ask is, if your life was better 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, what would that look like? The goal is that over the course of our time together, they're enriched not just financially, but also learn skills such as self-advocacy, whilst widening their network of supports. Every 3 months, I connect with my client roster to discuss their progress, what's working, not working, etc. There are more intensive clients who I'm in contact with on a regular, sometimes daily basis, and who need greater support. Since coming into this position, I've transitioned 8 clients off financial assistance. Whilst this is a triumph, I've also gained several more. So we're almost always at a steady 38 clients receiving financial assistance per month. We do have a fair system in place when it comes to assessing who best fits the criteria for financial aid. For example, monthly income has to be under a certain amount, an agreement needs to be reached to work with me at least 4 times over the year, that kind of thing. Part of this is forming a collaborative client plan, or CCP, which details client goals and extra support systems as a part of the process. It's always such a great achievement to return to a CCP with a client and show them the tangible progress that they've made.
So what exactly is food security? It's more than just being hungry. Household food insecurity is the inadequate or insecure access to food due to financial constraints. It's a serious problem in Canada that negatively impacts physical, mental, and social health and costs our healthcare system considerably. Food insecurity is a financial issue, not a resource issue. In Hamilton, in the month of March 2019, almost 23,000 visits were logged across the city, the highest on record. This number reflects only the food banks involved with the Hamilton food share at the time of their study, which means that the number is actually much higher. Children make up 40% of the people who go hungry in Hamilton. Reacting to food insecurity means making sure people have adequate access to culturally appropriate foods in a dignified manner. Did you know that there are 4 times more food charities in Canada than there are grocery stores? That means for every Loblaws, Metro, Fortinos, and No Frills, there are 4 churches, temples, synagogues, mosques, senior centers, schools, or social programs providing food for people who may not have the means to buy it. We know from research that 52 million people can be fed with Canada's food production, which is a massive surplus considering our population of 38 million people. Yet 58% of all food is wasted. This points to a serious problem in our country's food system. It shows there are roadblocks for making food affordable, accessible, and abundant on the tables of every Canadian. Instead, it ends up in the landfill where it harms our planet. Almost 20% of Canadians, which is equivalent to the population of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta combined, get food from charitable organizations. Too much edible food is being wasted while people are going hungry. The system needs to change so we can fill the hunger gap while diverting edible food from the landfill where it produces greenhouse gases. Cutting down on food waste is essential for the future of our planet as we grapple with climate change events that get worse every year. And in case anyone's interested, these statistics are from Second Harvest Canada and their newly released research study. So these statistics are new as of 2021. And this is how this breaks down in Ontario. There are 5,368 grocery stores and 21,502 charitable food organizations, which they estimate serve almost 2 million people. So what is our response to this? Carol's Cupboard is our kosher food bank. Named after its creator, Carol Crames, it's the heart of our food security program. Clients can visit Carol's Cupboard once a month. They will receive about a week's supply of food, which includes non-perishable items, kosher meat, fresh or frozen produce, fresh homemade challah, toiletries, and cleaning supplies. Even during the lockdown, it was important that we gave our clients as much autonomy over the process as possible. So we allowed them to fill out an order form in order to customize their food packages. We're constantly evaluating what items we stock and continue to make changes based on client feedback. Some recent changes have included increasing pantry staples, such as flour, sugar, and spices, as well as our gluten-free options. Another important aspect of our food bank is the fact that it is appointment-based. This means we never have clients waiting in line, and we're able to preserve client dignity and anonymity. Food is a key part of how most people recognize Judaism and the Jewish holidays. Because of that, we want to make sure that we're providing holiday-specific foods in the monthly allocations. On Hanukkah, we always have chocolate gelt and latkes, and on Purim, we have hamantashen. This past Purim 2021, we were very generously gifted with mishloach manot, which are mini celebratory food packages, and I was able to distribute them to our clients with children. On Rosh Hashanah and Passover, the big holidays, we go even further. Every single food bank client, approximately 90 people, received an expanded holiday food box from us. In addition to the regular food bank staples, it has prepared foods and holiday-specific items. For Rosh Hashanah, we had honey cakes, apples and honey, and fresh challah. Passover last year, we gave out prepared roasted chickens, lots of matzah, cakes, and a Seder plate. And of course, there's always chicken soup and matzo balls. These holiday hampers are a lot of work, but the feedback we receive from our clients always makes it worth it. And I just want to show some pictures from the food bank. So this is from our summer food drive. What the room looked like after a successful food drive. This is a picture of most of what was given out in our Rosh Hashanah boxes of 2021. And these are just some of the many, many volunteers it took to get those Rosh Hashanah boxes out the door and to our clients. So here are some statistics that I personally find very interesting and also very eye-opening. We've been tracking food bank clients for just over a year now, and we've seen over 200% increase in the number of clients, even just in 2021. The food bank gives out, on average, 2,600 pounds of food a month, and we gave out 26,000 pounds of food in 2021 to date, which doesn't even include those special holiday hampers. In October alone, we gave out over 4,000 pounds of food to 67 clients, which was a new food bank record. To put that in perspective, to make that mean something, we gave out about 134 chickens, 67 jars of peanut butter, 268 cans of beans, and over 300 rolls of toilet paper, just as an example. The research shows that only 20% of people who deal with food insecurity will access a food bank. People don't come to us because they want to.
I will say as well, just as an aside, that when Rachel says that we've been recording and tracking the numbers, it is just the numbers, not the people, not the names.
Correct. That is all. We work very hard to preserve our clients' confidentiality.
In the past year, thanks to the CCPs that are carefully crafted and followed through, 14 intensive clients have become 7, which is, and also I'd like to share with you a sample of the 210 plus goals that were reached in the past year. A legal settlement was achieved for a client who benefited $1,000. I was able to obtain 2 sets of hearing aids, along with dentures and orthotics, which were provided for clients with low income, some of whom are survivors. Each of these endeavors was fully funded and comes to over $5,000 in total. I assisted 3 clients with their relocation, 2 to other parts of Ontario, 1 to Israel, and actually just a few weeks ago, another to Vancouver. 88 Passover baskets were packed and delivered to survivors and clients in need. And during Passover, 15 extra gift cards were obtained via Survivor Supports, which was $200 each for a total of $3,000. It's worth noting, as an aside, that this sum is actually in US dollars, and that additionally only 100 gift cards have been donated for the whole of North America, and JFS got 1 for each of our clients. There's also been connections to local organizations such as DART, the LIN, things like that to improve a client's quality of life. During the holiday season, I was able to obtain $1,000 in extra funding for 2 high needs clients. And the past year, I've secured close to $15,000 in additional funding for my clients, inclusive of things like dentures, gift cards, hearing aids. As you can see, holistic case management is so much more than the distribution of monthly funds. It's an ever-evolving program that seeks to lift up and empower all of our participants. This is our second summer developing and benefiting from our community gardens. We have 3 locations that our garden coordinator and a team of dedicated volunteers manage. These are at Temple, Beth Jacob, and the Addis. As well as this, we receive produce from the Dundas Rotary Club and the amazing community members who donate from their personal gardens. Not only do these gardens provide fresh produce for our food bank, they're an opportunity for community involvement, especially from school-aged children who get to help plant and harvest while learning about the needs in the community. The Kosher on Wheels program has unfortunately ended, but it provided home-cooked meals to 30 clients weekly. This program came to a conclusion in March, and both Rachel and I are still getting asked by clients if it will come back. More than just the fresh meal, clients felt cared for and remembered. We're currently working on some exciting ideas about how to give clients that feeling again, and we can't wait to share more information with you once it's available. So these are some of the many programs that both Rachel and I have worked on. As you can see, so much of what we do is a collaboration with other organizations. HJFS believes that everyone has a right to feel valued, supported, and seen. We've run a very successful backpack drive for the last 3 years, and after the success of our 2020 Hanukkah toy donation, we're going to be bringing it back for 2021. I was actually sent a video that I wish I could show you, but for confidentiality reasons, I can't, from a client whose daughter was 3 and received an Elsa doll. And this is a direct quote: "It's the most beautiful thing I have ever seen ever in my life." By the 3-year-old, not the parent. We provide workshops for clients as well as community members, such as what we're doing tonight. These are a great way to engage in a new topic and bring about positive and lasting change.
Some of our food security workshops have included several from Second Harvest about cooking on a budget and food waste, and a cooking demonstration with Bob Bloomer, celebrity chef, about how to prepare a zero-waste holiday meal for Rosh Hashanah. All of these workshops are shared with those we think would benefit from them. I know I personally have learned a lot from taking part in community workshops. I'm also constantly networking with other food banks and organizations in Hamilton and across the country, and I know Aimee is as well. Most are surprised to learn about us. They didn't know there was a need for a Jewish organization or that one existed in Hamilton. This network has led to many cross-agency referrals, and we learn a lot about best practices from each other.
I'd just like to interject really quickly there, which is that this year, we at Hamilton Jewish Family Services, I worked with a number of different agencies in the States. I was the honorary Canadian representative, which is funny because I'm obviously not from Canada, to do an educational workshop on diversity within the Orthodox community and how many different degrees that can take. What was interesting to me was that of all the agencies that were there, who had several thousand clients each, we were the smallest one. And there are so many people who, as Rachel said, didn't know that we existed or were here. And yet our territory stretches from Oakville all the way to St. Catharines and the Niagara area.
So we just want to share some direct quotes that we've received from clients over the last year, 18 months. So from my food bank clients, I've heard, "It is food from the heart that nourishes with kindness. Carol's Kitchen at HJFS makes all the difference in helping me maintain a healthy level of food supply. It's very much appreciated. When faced with big life challenges, the support from HJFS is also encouraging emotionally and brings a sense of community and hope. Helpful in times of need and kind encouragement. No judgment or guilt tripping. It allows me to keep kosher and keep healthy food on the table during difficult times, and that there is a good Jewish community that supports those in need. The help from Carol's Cupboard makes it possible for me to have enough food in months where I need help with this. The benefit is that I can take better care of my health."
And from my clients, I've got to hear that JFS saved my life. When I had nothing, they were there. When I was hungry, they were there. Now I'm in a place where I can repay their kindness. They make the world a better place. HJFS is the secret jewel of our community. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm getting my debt under control and I'm finally feeling financial freedom. I have never been made to feel small. We're treated not as problems to be solved, but people who are hurting. It makes all the difference.
So our work doesn't happen in a vacuum. Aimee and I, as Alexis mentioned, who are known as the Wonder Twins, work closely together along with the rest of the HJFS team to provide each client with well-rounded supports. And I do want to emphasize that even though Alexis calls us the Wonder Twins, it really is every single person at JFS, everyone who is part of a team, that allows us to do what we do and support our clients completely as individuals. I cannot understand how amazing every single staff member is to work with at Hamilton Jewish Family Services. We also work with the broader Hamilton community, as well as the broader Jewish community, and we're able to network with other organizations in Canada and internationally. This network allows us to continue to learn about what is happening in the larger communities and how we can both continue to improve the services provided by HJFS. Our goal is to change and adapt until we put ourselves out of business.
Amen. So what can you do to help? Every little bit of time or donation makes such a huge difference. You can volunteer, donate, attend events, or just signal boost us. When you see us on Facebook or on your social media, spread the word about what we're doing. It really helps.
So now we'd like to open up the floor a little bit. If you have any questions or any comments, now would be the time. Feel free to unmute yourself or to put it into the chat.
Actually, Sarah made a really good comment, which is, speaking as someone who receives this kind of holistic assistance in my own community, I can't overstate the value of having an advocate, an ally who knows what resources are out there and how to access them.
Rachel, I know the answer to this, but I think this is important for people to, and I know I asked you this question, I think today, out of the food bank users, what percentage is Jewish and struggling with food insecurity?
So I would say about 80% of our clients are Jewish. As well, it's been really interesting to note the demographic shift in our clients, where we've been seeing a lot more younger individuals, young families, young singles, students who have been coming to our food bank. And I would say that's within the last 6 to 8 months, we've really seen a shift.
I was also surprised by how many refugees that or
Yes.
asylum seekers that we have on our roster of clients.
And Aimee, I just have a question for you, and I already know the answer, but I think it's important that the audience knows this. You know, we talk about our wide breadth of where we service, and we talked about a little bit about why poverty is not talked about with that idea of a shunda and these people being invisible. I'm going to ask you a question. Have you run across homeless Jewish people in your work?
Yes. When the video had its little butts earlier on, I disclosed that one of my newest clients is a homeless gentleman who is currently living at the shelter on York Street, Salvation Army, and we're doing what we can to help him get housing. As Rachel said, the wait lists in Hamilton, even for emergency cases such as his, are staggeringly long. But I have currently on my client list, I have 4 clients who would classify themselves as homeless.
Thanks, Aimee.
If I could ask a question, I'm just curious, I'm not sure how relevant it actually is. What's the gender divide look like? Do we see more women coming into these programs? I'm just curious. Don't know how actually useful that is.
That's a really good question. I didn't make a note of this statistic before this presentation. Just off the top of my head, I think it's a fairly equal divide.
Yeah, I would say it's the same for my program. And we also do have some folks that tread that line of a gender neutral binary as well.
Yes.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Thank you. I was just curious.
No problem.
Okay.
And we should mention also that while I would say about 80% of our clients are Jewish, in terms of the food bank, anyone who comes to our door asking for food is going to be given food. We track religion and gender and age for statistical information, but it has absolutely no impact on what food resources we're able to provide. I know it is a little bit different from on the financial side of things, but from the food bank, you ask for food, you get food.
Yep. And that's the thing as well, from the financial relief perspective, to be clear, we provide our clients with an absolute maximum of $250 each a month. We wish we could do more, especially if it's to help somebody secure first or last month's rent, for example. That's why we work so closely with other community organizations and why this collaboration with them is so important. I think I've been surprised since coming on to case management. I've had, besides just clients who are homeless, I've had now 3 women who have fled abusive situations. And if they didn't have us and the network that we're able to help them establish and set up, I don't really want to think about what could have happened.
So I have a couple more questions because you know me, I know the answers to these, but I like to show. So I want to ask the question, do you receive support from the Jewish community, but do you receive funding support from outside the Jewish community in Hamilton?
Yes, absolutely. We work very closely with the city. They do, there are a number of fantastic programs such as special supports that can provide things like grab bars for showers, orthotics, glasses, in some extreme cases, dental care as well. We don't necessarily always get what we apply for, but we try our best.
And Rachel, I want to ask you a question about, because some people might want to buy those Tim Hortons Smile cookies. Do we get support from the Hamilton Food Share?
Yes, so we're actually incredibly lucky that we receive support from the Hamilton Food Share, as well as other organizations. We receive federal and provincial grants. In terms of the Hamilton Food Share, they just had their annual general meeting and they sent us some information. And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I believe it was something like 13,000 pounds of food were donated to our organization from the Hamilton Food Share. And that's in addition to several $1,000s in financial contributions. So they've been an incredible resource for us.
I'd also like to note here that in terms of family organizations that we partner with and create these little family networks, we have the Good Shepherd in downtown Hamilton. So when our backpack drive, once we've made sure that all of our clients who are in need have the backpacks that they've requested, we donate some extra to the synagogues who have religious schools and perhaps families there that may not feel comfortable coming to us, but would feel comfortable going to their rabbi. What we have left over always goes to Good Shepherd. And in return, when they get a number of kosher items, they've boxed them up and brought them to us before. It's a real partnership. And I have to say the same thing with the Aboriginal Health Centre. I've been partnering with them a lot recently, both because I have clients who are Métis or identify as First Nations people, but we're planning a number of programs together. So definitely watch this space.
So from the chat, there's a question from Oded asking, do we have any strategies to reduce food waste? So that's a really good question. It's definitely a very high priority for us. I know I've personally done a lot of research about food waste, and I've learned an incredible amount over my time working at the food bank. One of the things that we do to reduce food waste is we follow the Second Harvest guidelines in terms of best before dates, which they have a whole presentation, which I highly recommend, but essentially talk about how best before dates on most, not all, but most products aren't regulated and are put out by the manufacturers to encourage food waste and additional purchasing. So we're very cognizant of that. And as well, just ensuring that we are constantly using what we have, not buying more until we give out what we have. We're very lucky that over the summer, especially, people were very generous with the produce donations, and ensuring that every piece of produce went out before it went bad was a top priority in the office.
Two things I would, like, Sarah's a question in the chat I'll get to in just a moment, but I'd also like to point out with Rachel talking about the produce in the summer. One thing that was a real pleasure was if we had any left at the end of the week, which sometimes we did, it wasn't often. There were a couple of clients who said to us, if you have it left over, call us, let us know, and we'll come pick it up, you know? So Susan asked do grocery stores donate. Actually, we have a lot of very generous donations from Fortino's. Yes. Every year after Passover, we get, we have matzah for days. We have so much matzah, but they do the same thing at Hanukkah too. And they always make sure that it kind of comes in before the end of the holiday. So it's past the point where they feel they could sell it, but it does come to us, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have a great relationship with the Fortinos on Main Street West, as well as we have received donations from the Metro in Dundas, and I've been currently building a relationship with a No Frills location, so hopefully that's going to lead to some donations as well.
And Sarah has asked, may I share an online resource? Absolutely, please do.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to put the link to this in the chat. It's a cookbook by designed for the budget of U.S. people receiving food supplement income. I can't remember the exact term, but $4 US a day is the food stamp budget if you don't have any other money. It's designed to be supplemental, but sometimes it's not. So this cookbook called Good and Cheap is designed to help you learn to build up a pantry, and with recipes that can be done on that budget to keep, when you're low on money, to keep yourself fed and healthfully. The PDF is completely free. When I left the group home where I was staying for a while, I kind of as a gift to the house bought them a hard copy, and it's just a great resource.
Thank you, Sarah. I do want to mention that we actually have a copy of that cookbook at the food bank.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That was part. It's a fantastic resource.
Especially getting to have a PDF of it. I'm planning on sending that out to my clients next week. I have questions like this all the time, so it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't remember where I saw it, but it's also available in Spanish. So.
Oh, great.
And that was part of the inspiration for when we expanded our food bank pantry items. Yeah. I leaned heavily on the cookbook for what types of things would be most beneficial to have for people who are trying to build just a general all-purpose pantry. So for anyone who's interested, it really is a great cookbook.
And Rachel, actually speaking about sharing online resources, I know that you're technically off now as of the end of this Zoom, but I would love to, if we could maybe connect. I know that you shared with me that amazing list of guidelines from Second Harvest over, best before dates and when things actually went bad. And we have that up on my fridge. It's invaluable to us in our house. Like the amount of times that we will just, if something isn't looking so good, we'll chop off what looks bad about it and carry on. So, but if
anyone is interested in learning more about food waste and best before dates, please send me a message, an email, a text, and I would be more than happy to share those resources with you. There's Second Harvest. If you go onto the Second Harvest website, it's fairly easy to find, but I'm happy to share specific links as well.
That's where I learned the egg trick about how if you have eggs that have gone past their best before, you put it in a glass of water, and if it sinks, it's fine. If it floats in the middle, it's okay, but you should probably have them that day. And if it floats to the top, then you want to throw that away very quickly.
Aimee, I've got one more question. Sorry, because you were talking about poverty and the numbers of Jewish poverty versus non-Jewish poverty, but you also mentioned about Jewish Holocaust survivors living below the poverty line. And I have a question, because I think this is important for the community to know. So I know that you do work with the Claims Conference as part of your holistic case management. And how many of your clients that you're supporting through the Claims Conference right now are Holocaust survivors that are low income, receiving those low income supports through the Claims Conference?
16. I have another 2 that are waiting on approval from the Claims Conference. They've just submitted their paperwork. And beyond that, we have another 4 that I work with within the community who aren't below the poverty line, so they don't get the grocery or pharmacy gift cards that are sent out, but they benefit from other resources.
So I think we're just coming up on an hour. So before we end, I want to say a huge thank you for you for coming out tonight. I thank you to the Hamilton Jewish Federation and all of our funders for their continued support. We really hope this has been an interesting and informative evening. And we're going to end the recording, but feel free to stay on if you have any additional questions or comments that you'd like to make.
We know your time is precious, and